Welcome to In With the Podcast, where we let go of stuff that's no longer helpful and we make space for what really matters. Out with the old, in with you. What's up? I'm Jenna, and I help you find more confidence in your leadership, more balance in your life, and overall, I help you choose your whole self. And some days it's really hard. Some days it's really easy. and the topic that I'm going to share today, I feel like you should have seen me like 5 minutes before I hit record on this because like none of my technology is working. Things are all crazy. My hair is staticky. There's light coming in a weird place. Like video has added a fun new dimension to podcasting, but I'm here for it. But it has forced me to be a little extra resilient today on a day when I kind of don't feel like being resilient. I kind of feel like being grumpy, but here we are. And this season of the podcast, in terms of choosing our whole selves, we're talking a lot about values. We're talking a lot about our passions and the things that we love, love, love to do and making sure that we make space for them no matter what. And I've had some guests on in the past few months who have shared their stories around that. And I'm trying to share stories as well. But I wanted to talk to you today about an opportunity I had recently to talk to a group of emerging leaders about resilience. And when I was asked to talk about resilience, I was like, heck yeah, of course, I'm happy to do a workshop on resilience. But as I was preparing for it, I thought to myself, who the heck am I to talk about resilience? Who the heck am I to talk about resilience? And we do this, right? We downplay our experiences or our expertise or any of those things. And especially in the topic of resilience, because I know that for myself, I have been in audiences for, different events where there's been a speaker on stage and they're talking about, they're giving a keynote about, climbing Mount Everest or surviving a terminal diagnosis or both at the same time. And there's just like these wildly inspiring, often harrowing tales, and you're like, wow, they sure are resilient. And so when I was preparing for this presentation, I was just like, well, I haven't like survived a terminal diagnosis. I've climbed some mountains that were a little harrowing, but I made it. And so we do this thing as humans that has a name. It's called comparative suffering, where we compare the pain and discomfort or whatever that we are experiencing, and we compare it with someone else who might be going through something worse. And then we're like, well, I guess it's not so bad. We heard this growing up, at least if you were a child of the 80s. I feel like this was a common thing. Like, there are starving children in Africa, so you better finish your food. Or like, they're starving. We hear these like comparisons, like, you could have it way much worse than you have it, so just be grateful. And yes, absolutely. I think that's an important mindset to have. Gratitude clearly is a very important mindset to have. But also, at what expense are you downplaying the actual like challenges that you're going through? I'm not saying that finishing your green beans is a giant challenge in life, but for me, thinking through my presentation and comparing myself as we do, comparing myself to these like awesome speakers who have done really incredible things. I'm like, well, who the heck am I? And I'm like, Jenna, you've gone through some really big things. And also, resilience doesn't have to be about big things. I like to call our everyday things everyday resilience. And that's what I endured just moments before starting this podcast. Like one of my microphones just stopped working today, just stopped. And then like things were buzzing, things were weird. There's cords, there's like things that need to be plugged in. It's just, I can see why people who do this have producers. I don't really feel like I'm at that point yet. I'm just kind of like vibing with you on my couch. But uh, resilience doesn't have to be a really big thing. Resilience doesn't have to be like, this tragedy you endured as a child or something big. It can be everyday things. And one of the problems when we don't let ourselves, when we have this like comparative suffering and we don't allow ourselves to, you know, really face and admit those challenges that we're going through, we rob ourselves of the ability to build resilience. Because we're like, oh, it's just not a big thing. And we just kind of like brush it off. It's not like whatever. We rob ourselves of the ability to learn from that process. And that's what resilience is, by the way. Resilience is a dynamic process where we encounter a challenge and we successfully get to the other side. And in that process, you can take a lot of steps to get there. And when I was preparing again for this presentation, which was really, really fun, by the way, to be able to not only dive deep into this topic, but to be able to talk with people about it and see their like little light bulbs going off. But two things came up for me. One, I noticed in my researching that there is really four components that lend themselves to some people being more resilient than others. And I'll share those. But then also in preparation for this, I was thinking about all of those times in my life that I've been resilient, those big times, those little times, right? Like moving to a new city, infertility, pregnancy losses, buying a house, getting married, getting divorced, having a pandemic, going through staffing restructures, getting a bunch of things stolen on a trip. I mean, there's these things that we endure, and often we don't realize it at the time, but they're teaching us how to be resilient. And it's one of those things where I think I'm just kind of a naturally resilient person. And so when we're naturally good at something, it's really hard for us to think through, like, well, how would I teach someone how to do this? How would I teach you how to be resilient? Because sometimes, we all have our own ways of doing it. But when I think about my process, I, again, going through my whole list of all those times in my life when I've been resilient, I walked through the general framework that I go through when I encounter a challenge. And every single one of them kind of gave me the same framework. And I'm going to explain it to you because I think that it's helpful for me to name that framework. And I want to share it with you. Maybe it's going to like get some wheels turning in your head about your own framework, but also I want to share some missteps that I have taken along the process as well, so that you can learn from them. You can learn from my mistakes. And also, I do want to share as well those four key components that help us be more resilient. So I will bake those into my conversation here. And so I think that the best way to describe this is by telling you a story. And because this is an example of a time when I went through my resilience process, I think pretty effectively. And it was like 15 years ago, maybe like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. And I was in Europe for the Christmas season. I was spending Christmas in Paris. Very, very Serena van der Woodsen of me. By the way, I have been very much watching a lot of Gossip Girl, and I have decided that the month of December, I am becoming Blake Lively's character from Gossip Girl. So heads up, I may not be as scandalous as her. I mean, TBD on that, but I am definitely embodying some Serena van der Woodsen. So anyway, here I am. I am taking the train from Amsterdam to Brussels, and it's gorgeous, right? It's freaking Europe at Christmas time. And I've got my cute sweater and I've got my, like, all my things. I'm so excited because I've not been to Brussels yet. And I was excited to cross this new European city off my list. And we roll into the train station. And, I get up, I like take my purse and I look up above my seat to grab my suitcase. And I look above my seat. I'm like, oh, that's weird. My bag isn't up there. I'm like, well, maybe it's on the other side of the aisle. Turn around. Okay, it's not over there. I look down the aisle. There's no sign of my bag. And then there's a guy like a couple rows back, and in his broken English, French accent, he's like, a man took your bag and took it off the train a couple stops ago. And I was like, what now? A man took my bag. A man took all of the belongings I have for the next 10 days of this European Christmas adventure. Cool, cool, cool. Now what? Right? So I go into what I call game mode. And game mode is me being super focused. A lot of the emotion is just like taken out. And I am just working on what is the like survival next step that I must do. And so I got this guy on the train who saw my stuff being taken away. I got his cell phone number because he's like, if you need someone to like talk to the police or need a witness or whatever, I'm like, cool, merci. I'm going to take your phone number. I march over to the transit police station and I go in there. I'm like, hello, my luggage has been stolen. And they just kind of gave me this blank look like, uh-huh. Cool. Well, here's a website where you can fill out this like report for what you've lost, but I mean, this kind of stuff happens from time to time. And so that was not very encouraging, but I'm like, thank you. I will take this URL and I will complete this form because I'm destined to get my things back. Because I had like all my clothes, shoes, makeup, my eyeglasses, my toothbrush, socks, underwear, jewelry, but like everything that you bring on a trip was now gone. Everything was gone except for the clothes I was wearing, and then my purse, which had like, fortunately, had my wallet and my passport and all those important things. So, game mode, right? I am focused. I am emotionless. I am just like, get me to the thing. And I'm very effective. I am very effective in game mode. And the next step that I took, that's step number one, is game mode. Step number two is I walked out of that train police station and I was with my then husband at the time, and we stood in the middle of the busy train station and I just plopped my face onto his chest and cried into his sweater for 2 straight minutes. I sobbed in the middle of that train station. I was sad, I was angry, I was frustrated, I was tired, I was disappointed. I was all of the words you can imagine when all of your things are stolen from you. And after those 2 minutes, I was like, okay. I had to feel my feelings. That's step number two. I call it feel your feelings. Because now, step number three, once we have felt our feelings, we have some more clarity. And now we can assess. Now we can assess our tools. What do we have? What do we need? What are the gaps? What do I have available to me in terms of support and resources? So you can do this assessment and come up with a game plan. So, number three, assess your tools. Number four, do the game plan, man. Work the plan. It's very much a physics equation. A body in motion stays in motion. So, when you start working the plan, all kinds of new things just become like, just emerge for you. So I got on the subway, we got into the town, I went to H&M, I got myself some sweaters, went to the drugstore, got all the drugstore things I need, dropped it off at the hotel. So again, like assessing what I needed, working the plan, going out and getting the things, getting myself like into a place where I felt okay. And then a magical thing tends to happen when we are working the plan and we have the motion going, we have the physics going. All of a sudden, we start to see more possibility. We start to see, oh, I could try this thing, or I could do that thing. We start to just build trust in ourselves and what we're capable of. And I had this moment after a lot of, crying and shopping for essentials, where I was in this kind of town square in Brussels, and there's Christmas markets everywhere in Europe, and it was music and it was lights and it was smells of like sausages and people talking and their accents, and it was like this moment where I'm like, you know what? It's Christmas. I'm in one of the most beautiful cities in Europe, potentially the world, and I'm safe and I'm healthy. Things could be a lot worse. So I had this moment of clarity where I was able to see the possibility. I was able to shift my mindset and then go forth. And so then that final step of the process for me is, I think, one of the most important ones is to reflect on, okay, that shitty thing happened. What can I learn from this? What are my lessons? What will I do differently because of this? Because things will always happen to us. We will always encounter challenges. Those are not going to stop coming. However, you get to choose how you respond to those challenges. You get to choose how you show up, what kind of possibility you find, and what lesson or reflection you want to take from it. I think so often we skip that lesson and reflection point and we just like feel like a victim, like, well, that crappy thing happened to me. And then we just use it as a story about how, here's another example of a shitty thing that happened to me. And no, like you can use this as an opportunity to say, well, what am I going to do differently next time? I mean, I always keep my bag on the floor on a train with me at all times now. Like I do not let that bag out of my sight. And also, I mean, I've always been a really light packer, but I learned I do not have to pack very much at all because I survived on only a couple items of clothes in that week to follow. So, there's lessons, there's reflections that, don't take your favorite things on a trip with you because they could get stolen. So, there's important lessons to reflect upon and then to integrate, and then to integrate them. And I like to think about resilience, kind of like, the game Jenga. I think sometimes when crappy things happen to us, I think of it as the Jenga tower, like crashing down and like, oh no, there's blocks everywhere. And you look at it and you're like, God damn it. Like, why did this thing happen to me? And now I've got like, I did all this work to build this thing up and now it's all on the ground. And reflection is the step that allows you to build back stronger. To build, it's like think of resilience as like new building blocks. Those reflections are those lessons, they're new building blocks. That yeah, stuff is going to fall down, but it doesn't mean that you have lost everything. In fact, you have gained some more blocks because now you're going to build back with new reflections, new tools. You're going to build back stronger and taller. So every time a setback comes and your Jenga tower falls down, you have the opportunity to rebuild and use those new lessons as new blocks to build you taller and stronger. So there are really four really key components, I would say, for people who are particularly more resilient than other people. And I got my little presentation here. I'm going to just pull it up so I can not forget some highlights for you here. But four things. One of them is what I like to call the infrastructure that you have around you. So that's your social support, your like emotional and or your environmental support. Do you have a strong community of people? Do you have resources around you like financial resources and education resources? So I call it the systems, structure, and support. So people who are more resilient have more support. They have more support or they have built more support. So this sort of social factors like your friends, your family. How available are they? Are they there for you? Do you have role models to look up to? I think about work, for instance, like when crappy things happen at work or we're just like not feeling great. Do we have the people to look up to who we can see ourselves in them and we can see like, oh, I can do this because they are showing me an example of how to do that. Our colleagues, our professional colleagues, can be really helpful systems and social support for us, especially when we might be a little intimidated to go to a supervisor or someone more superior to us and admit that, like, oh, this thing is happening and it's scary and I don't know what I'm doing. Having those professional colleagues and peers is really, really helpful. And that is something that I leaned on a lot when I was going through my big move from Minneapolis to Kansas City, taking on this big new role. I'm in these, new city. I'm in this like new shoes, like literally and figuratively in this role. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I need to find someone to talk to about it because I'm kind of losing my mind. So that system of support is really important, as well as like your environmental factors. A lot of the resilience research talks about the protective factors that we have from our family of origin and growing up and just the how healthy our childhood was, essentially. So having that sense of belonging, whether it's from your childhood or even a sense of belonging in terms of the community that you have right now, whether that's your community at work or outside of work, that sense of belonging, like you belong, really increases your resilience. It increases your belief in how you're going to move through difficult times. And then our access to resources. I mean, things like obviously money. Yeah, money sure helps with everything, but also our access to healthcare. Do we have what we need to be healthy mentally and physically? Do we have education? Do we know where to find information? So you can see like the environmental, the social, and this access to resources, it builds this scaffolding that keeps us strong. It's like the scaffolding that keeps a Jenga tower up. I would not advise using scaffolding during the game of Jenga, but think of it as that way. Like it keeps you structured and built in. So that is really, really important. So I would encourage you to take 1 minute, like 60 seconds, set a timer and list all of the resources that you currently have available to you when you encounter a challenge. Like, what are them? Who are they? Who are the people? What's your community? What other resources do you have around you? List them. You might be surprised with how quickly that minute goes by and you're still writing all the things down. Or maybe you're like, oh man, I feel like perhaps I'm lacking in some of these resources. So I do want to go back to my framework because I did tell you that I was going to share a misstep with you from my life. And I told you, I get into game mode. Oh, okay. I get into game mode. I feel the feelings. I access or I assess my resources. I come up with my plan. I work that plan and then I reflect on what can I do differently next time. One of the steps that is incredibly important that I don't always do is number 2, feel the feelings. And I did this when I moved here for this job and I was just like going through the motions. I'm like, I've got to figure this out. I've got to prove to everybody that I know what I'm doing and I'm going to be great at this. And I was feeling so insecure and so not confident. And I didn't have a lot of social support around me. And it was hard. I didn't have a lot of friends in a new city. And so I just kept moving in game mode and working my plan without feeling my feelings and instead just kind of pushing them down or ignoring them or like, whatever, Jenna, it's not that big of a deal. But eventually it will catch up with you. Eventually you will get to a point where you're like, oh no, I need to feel my feelings. And that can come in the form of like anxiety and depression, some unhealthy coping strategies, or just it will find you. And me saying this, you probably already have an idea in your head of what happens when you don't effectively process your feelings. So that will be a really important one to remember, that when something happens to you, before you start working the plan too much, clear your head. Feel your feelings. That can mean crying into someone for 2 minutes. It could mean going for a walk, taking a yoga class, having a conversation with a friend where you can be really vulnerable. Let yourself feel the feelings in whatever way works for you, because it makes everything so much clearer when you have allowed yourself that cloud of emotion to dissipate. You're going to have so much more information available to you about the resources that you have, that scaffolding, that infrastructure you have around you. You're going to be able to work a plan that is a lot quicker, a lot more effective, and a lot more productive for you and the people around you. So feel the feelings, damn it. Okay, so again, of the 4 components, number 1, we talked about the systems and support, the infrastructure around you. The second one is our mindset. There's this thing called cognitive agility, right? We know agility. It's like zoom, zoom, zoom. Like how quickly can you bounce? Bam, bam. And cognitive agility is your ability to shift thought processes, to not get too stuck in one rut of a thought process, and to be able to generate some creative solutions. And so cognitive agility, I like to ask myself the question, I know I've talked about this on here before, but the question of what else might be true? When I get stuck or I get into a spiral or I get into, whatever process I'm in, I say, what else might be true, Jenna? What else might be true? And then I can start examining different pathways. So there's a couple like hot tips I like to recommend in terms of shifting mindset. One of them is asking yourself what else could be true. And the other one is just choosing, like, just choosing how do I want to feel at the end of this? How do I want to feel at the end of this challenge? And then thinking through what are the steps I would take to get there? What is the mindset I would need? Am I going to be a victim? Am I going to be blaming people? Am I going to be like pointing fingers? Or am I going to be like, okay, fine, I'm going to accept responsibility? Or am I going to be like, hey, you know what? Maybe someone else can help me with this. Or maybe this is a bigger challenge that I can help solve a bigger problem for people. So it's just all about how you want to choose to feel through the process. And then you get to choose that, right? Like it sounds so silly to say it, but you get to choose. You get to choose. You get to be what you want to see in the world. I have this little thing on my shelf. It's like a little badge that I framed, and it says, likers gonna like instead of haters gonna hate. And I love that because it really is about choosing. Like, you can be a hater. Like, you can like shit on things. You can find ways to like put people down or put things down or like poke the holes in all the things and be a hater. Or you can be a liker. You can see the opportunity. You can see, like, oh, hey, that is a good idea. Oh, that would be fun. Hey, let's expand that. Hey, have you tried this? So it's really a liker's gonna like or a hater's gonna hate situation. You get to choose if you're a liker or a hater. And the other hot tip I would say for mindset is just your growth mindset. Looking at challenges as opportunities rather than setbacks, saying like, okay, well, this shit with my baggage sure sucks. Am I going to let it ruin the rest of my trip in frickin' France and Germany? Or am I going to find ways to enjoy this? What can I gain from this? What can I learn from this? And in a lot of ways, like obviously when we encounter challenges, we're not going to know exactly how to do the things to get us to the other side. So there's this little fancy magic word that we add to the end of our sentences when we are in tricky times that we don't know what the F we're doing. We add the word yet. I don't know how I'm going to get through that yet. I don't have what it takes to move that project forward yet. And then you ask yourself, well, like what would the steps be? And if I don't know what the steps are, who might know? Who can I engage in this? Who can I recruit to help me with this? So again, your mindset, your growth mindset is really, really important. So again, how do you want to feel? Do you want to be a liker or a hater? What else might be true? And then the power of yet. Your words matter. Your words matter so much to your brain more than you realize. Okay, so we talked about number one, the scaffolding around you. Number two, the mindset. Number three is your behavioral coping tools. Like when crappy things happen, how able are you to move through stressful times? Do you have the emotional intelligence it takes to name the actual feeling that you're feeling and knowing what you need to manage that feeling and not project that feeling onto people and make them feel worse? Like knowing and owning your feelings, having that self-awareness is so important. So emotional intelligence is like clutch for all things in life, but particularly resilience. And then other supportive behaviors like breathing, like having a nice long, deep inhale through your nose all the way to the top of your lungs and holding it for 4 counts. And then letting it go, letting your nervous system regulate. That breath is important. Again, words matter. So giving yourself a pep talk, that is another great tool. You don't know how many times I get in my car, I back out of my garage, and I give myself a pep talk for the day. I don't even realize I'm doing it sometimes. Another tool you can use is to visualize, like, what does it look like for me at the other side of this challenge? What does it look like for me? And imagine it. And then finally, asking for help. And I know this sucks balls sometimes, but knowing how and when to ask for help It's going to help you move through whatever challenge you're going through so much more quickly. There have been people who have gone through the things that you're going through, and they would love nothing more than to help you avoid the missteps that they took. So please ask for help. Okay, number four. Number four, just real quick. The other component for the people who are most resilient in their lives, do some neuroplasticity work. And what the heck does that mean? It means, how do we retrain our brain? Our brain is like a mushy thing that can be evolved and changed and trained. And there are actual things you can do to change the neural pathways in your brain so that you are able to be more resilient. So you're able to take those lessons that you learned, integrate them, and have a new way of looking at challenges, new way of looking at life. So things like, actual physical activity is a really great way to build your neural pathways. So get out there, exercise. It just seems like a obvious natural thing that we're told to do for all things. So yeah, why wouldn't it work also for resilience? Meditation, chilling out. Meditation and just like being chill builds that kind of like smushy gray matter in your brain. And therapy, obviously, therapy is always a good idea. There's therapy that really does sort of refresh your brain. I don't know if you've done EMDR or just straight up cognitive behavioral therapy. Ketamine assisted therapy is really powerful and very effective. Lots of ways through therapeutic sources to retrain your brain, create those new pathways, and then just keep learning. Every time we learn stuff, we build new little neurons in our brain, and they're firing and they're pumped. So yeah, keep learning. Listening to this podcast, listening to the tones of my voice talking to you is helping you build new neural pathways as you are thinking through your process for resilience, as you're listening to my process for resilience. So don't underestimate all of the ways that you are already being resilient. And then also notice the barriers to being resilient. Like when you are very stressed out, or maybe you haven't slept in a long time, or you're hungry, or you're burnt out, like there are things that it's going to make it really, really hard for you to see possibility, to work through a process where you can see yourself successfully getting to the other side of something. So just notice those times when it's a little more tough for you to be resilient, and then, take care of yourself. Make that little menu of things that feel good for you. I think I talked about that in a previous episode recently. That feel good menu, go to that. Use that. That is going to help you move through difficult times. And again, the difficult times are going to be coming. I mean, it's December. There's weather. There's people who we don't want to hang out with. There's parking lots that are completely insane. I accidentally think I took a parking spot away from an elderly man the other day. I didn't mean to. I was just coming through. I was like, shoom, there's a spot. And I think he was coming from the other side and maybe took it. And I'm just like, well, I'm already parked. I don't want to take the spot. Anyway, the parking lots are stressful is what I'm saying. And I'm still holding some guilt for potentially taking an old man's parking spot. It's not like it was his, you guys. It wasn't like it was marked for people who can't walk fast. So, maybe he's a very fast walker. I don't know. I will never know. I'm spending way too much time worrying about this man, but I hope that he has a happy holiday. What else? Resilience. I don't know. But I would say when you have a challenge that comes up, because it will, just take a breath and walk through your process. Like, okay, what are my tools? What do I need? What am I missing? How do I want to feel at the other side of this? Who can help me? What are the systems and support around me? And I feel like super duper fortunate that I have a massive amount of support around me in so many ways. And I continue to go through challenges because I'm a human person. And I just am again reminded this week of just the outpouring of love and support that I have in my life, and the resources that I have internally that I have built. And I think that the person who asked me to be the speaker for this resilience workshop saw that in me, and which is why she asked me to be the speaker because often we don't see in ourselves the wealth of tools and capability that we have. So I'm learning to remind myself and trust in myself that I've got those things. So let's just practice some everyday resilience. It doesn't have to be this like massive hardship, it can be every single day. Are we going to be a liker? Are we going to be a hater? How do we want to feel? How do we feel our feelings so that we have more clarity? This is how we build resilience. And again, the most important thing is to reflect. What are the lessons I learned from this? What might I do differently next time? And your Jenga tower is going to get super tall and it's going to fall down again, but then it's going to be even stronger next time. Hopefully that metaphor lands. I should just get an actual Jenga board here. Did you know that my nickname in high school is Jenga? Some of my friends still call me Jenga. All right. Well, that's all I have for you today on resilience. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that you take some of the tools that I shared in here today and really do work through them and use this episode as an opportunity to talk to somebody else in your life who might be going through a challenging time, who might need a little inspiration around resilience. Use it to talk about your lessons learned from your most recent resilience experiences. And of course, I want to hear about them too. I want to hear about your resilience process because I think we can learn a lot from each other. And as always, do all the things like follow, review the podcast. I do have this on video now. I'm still learning how to do it in a super fancy way. So just bear with me as I figure things out. So you can find that on my YouTube channel, which is also linked in the episode notes. Connect with me on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and schedule some time with me. I would love to connect with you. And stay tuned next week. I'm going to be talking about the winter solstice. Yes, I know, but it's going to be dope and I can't wait. And I'm going to have some tools available for you if you are interested to make your winter solstice the most darkest and inspiring one yet. And I say that in a good way. So until next time. Oh, one thing I did watch, I want to tell you, I watched the Jeff Buckley documentary. It was in the theaters a few months ago and it finally came out on streaming and it's good. So if you're looking for a doc, highly recommend. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep rewatching Gossip Girl for like the 100th time. So until next time, keep making room for what matters. Out with the old, in with the you.